Line NFL Sunday edition. We got 1 hour to take you directly right up till kickoff and provide you with the best information on the internet. Look at this panel today. Look, I'm the old man in the crew sitting back here. We got Jay, we got Ian out here. This is going to be a lot of fun to go over and have some good time today. Let's bring the guys in. Jay, what's good, my friend?
What's up, brother? Week 10, looking forward to it. Let's go.
You got it, man. A little bit of feedback to see that. Look, when we go live, you get feedback. You still fight through it there. Ian Cameron, let's bring you in here. NFL Week 10, baby.
Yeah, unlike the Cleveland Browns, we actually fight through adversity here on the SBR NFL Closing Line Show, and we're ready to break down Week 10. Let's get after it.
No, we're going to have some fun today, and some interesting stuff comes up because, you know, we can usually cross-reference other sports, and we laugh, and I'm sending out tweets during the week. NFL doesn't load manage. It's a perfect schedule, 17 games. Can you imagine people load managing in the NFL? Here we are at the Kansas City Chiefs. Word comes out. Guess who's not playing today? Shady McCoy. Why is that? Load management. So, hey, cross-referencing between sports. We'll have some fun kicking it off. We got a full slate at 1 o'clock. Then we'll hit those 4 o'clock games as usual. We'll go right down in order. And one of the best parts about the show, you guys know, is what? At the end of the show, we're going to give out some best bets that have been absolutely killing it. So hopefully we keep that pressure on this week. Let's get right into it. Load management game 1, 251, 252, Kansas City and Tennessee. Now, we saw early in the week, if you're following through with SBRodds.com, and as always, we give a nice little plug on this one here. Best place to get these line movements. Check it out, SBRodds.com. But taking a look, opens up 3.5, 4 in that range. Late during the week. Look, we got some medical information coming back. Mahomes jumps in. This line hit as high as 6.5, so I'm looking across the board right now. Mostly 6s, and I agree. That's probably a pretty good line. Over-under at 48.5. We take a look, as I said, at some inactive reports today. Duvernay Tardif is not going to play in this football game. Frank Clark is up for the Kansas City Chiefs, but also taking a look at the Tennessee Titans. Offensively, a little bit down. Delaney Walker's not going to go, and also Corey Davis not going to go as a wide receiver. Not the greatest thing when you might have to engage in a possible shootout there with the Kansas City Chiefs. Ian, I'm going to start with you first. Early game look in this. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, obviously the big news is Patrick Mahomes returning, although you give Matt Moore a lot of credit for leading the team to a big win against Minnesota in their last game. Very impressive by the Kansas City Chiefs, no question about that. Andy Reid can still get it done from an offensive preparation standpoint. I think he showed that in really the both games that Matt Moore started against Green Bay and Minnesota. I thought he played well. He wasn't the reason they lost against the Packers. Managed the offense well, moved the football, was able to do it at a relatively good clip. Now you're going to get Mahomes back. You're obviously happy to see that. Tennessee, the concern for me, Donnie, today and Jay, is the fact their defensive injuries are mounting at an alarming rate. They're going to be shorthanded a little bit on the defensive side of the football. Obviously, for the Tennessee team, you're talking about Davis and Delaney Walker. It's going to hurt a little bit, but I've liked what I've seen at times from Tannehill. Tannehill is certainly spreading the field a little bit more. This is showing more of a vertical passing game. You pretty much saw none of that from Marcus Mariota when he was the starting quarterback. So I looked at the over in this game, actually, at 49 in this game. I think it's a lower total for Kansas City games because of the fact Tennessee's involved. But you see Tennessee, they fly over the total with Carolina last week. That game was in the low 40s. I think Tennessee, with the defensive injuries, Kansas City will be able to move the ball. And on the flip side, I think you'll see Ryan Tannehill, who's been a little bit of an upgrade for this offense, move the ball. And Derrick Henry on the ground should have a nice day. Kansas City's run defense, to me, still leaky. I'm surprised they played well against Dalvin Cook and the Vikings. I've got to see it again before I believe it. A second straight week that this KC run defense can get it done. I'm not so sure they can. So I played this one over the total. I didn't get involved in the side.
Now, Jay, taking a look at this game, I'm talking from a Tennessee perspective here, played the Chargers, played Tampa Bay, and played Carolina. 2 of those 3 games, Tannehill did throw for over 300 yards. Even if we take a look at the Carolina game on the road last week, the offense wasn't the problem. 121 yards on the ground and 310 yards in the air. I think it's a better offense now that you do have Tannehill, but they are down some weapons in this one. That bounce back coming with Patrick Mahomes running around, gives that boost in the locker room. The offense looks fully intact. Is that enough to carry a 7, or basically have to win by 7 to cash this ticket today?
Yeah, Donnie, I haven't been a fan of this Tennessee team all year. I have a ticket in my pocket with their season win total under. I agree with Ian. I do think that this Tennessee offense is better with Ryan Tannehill than it was with Mariota. For that reason, I guess I would give a lean to the over in the direction that Ian's going. But I don't know. I think this is a get-right spot. Mahomes is back for Kansas City. I think they probably win this game by a touchdown. I haven't bet the game, but if I had to lean on a side, I think that they can win this game by a touchdown. They're second in the league, DVOA. The Chiefs, Donnie, for as bad as their defense looks to the eyes, they're top 10 defense by the metrics. They're 11th right now. Football Outsiders has them. So I think their defense is a little better on paper than what I see. But I think they could win this game by a touchdown. It wouldn't shock me. I would lean the Chiefs. I would lean with Ian on the over.
Yeah, you know what was interesting too, because when you're taking a look at a couple weeks back, Chris Jones, the all-world defensive, lineman that they had, and also Frank Clark being out, missing, a couple weeks here, coming back together, that helps that defensive line. It'll be interesting to see how it comes up, because Tennessee overall as a defense also not too bad. Pro Football Focus has them ranked 7th in the NFL, and they're also 7th in total points giving up, which is a nice, top 10 battery to have when you're trying to get the Chiefs. But it will be interesting. Now, I want to ask the both of you a question in this, because it's all fine and good that we see Patrick Mahomes running around, and he was at practice last 2 weeks. You see the doctors say there's literally zero chance that he can end up hurting that knee. I heard one of the things that was actually an interesting point throughout the week saying, along with his knee, which is banged up, which now looks like he's healed, he was having problems with the ankle, and this time off allowed that to heal as well. We all know that there might be some rust back involved. Drew Brees didn't have any rust when he came back on that thumb injury ahead of the curve. Between both of you, Ian, I'll start with you first. What are we looking at from Patrick Mahomes today? Is this, oh my God, he's back 350 and 3 touchdowns, or does he start slow?
He might ease into it a little bit, Donnie, but I saw that press conference, that very press conference where he's standing there and he's very confident in saying that I feel good. I feel like I'm going to be able to use all of my abilities. I'll be able to run. I'll be able to move around on the field with very little limitations, if any. You got to take, I think, Patrick Mahomes at his word when he says something like, because he seemed to exude extreme confidence, guys, that he's going to be feeling good here today for this football game and ready to roll. And if he is, that could be trouble. Again, this Tennessee team with the defensive injuries mounting, it's not the team you want to be facing them against. The underdog has been a good bet in Tennessee games this year. They're one of those teams you don't lay points in Tennessee games. You like to take points in Tennessee games, but that hasn't been so much the case lately with Titans games. And there's a real good long-term trend with Kansas City going into this game. On the road in AFC conference games, they're 22-7 against the spread their last 29 conference road games to Kansas City Chiefs. That's a pretty darn good track record.
Jay, I want to ask you a question on this, because I know, you do all the shows, you're live, you like to watch games in, just taking a peek of yesterday, my day, wanted to clear some time to watch that LSU game. And we talked all week long about watching a quarterback. We didn't know if Tua was going to be healthy, watching him over the first 2 series. And you know what? He might have a good game, but he's not right in this one, and being able to have the ability to bet, LSU live when they're up a touchdown and still get like a point or two in that aspect. Talking about watching this game live, is this something that you say, you know what, before I even dip my toes in, let me see Mahomes on 2 drives here, and then I might get in on this? That's something that you look at?
100%. That's what I did yesterday with the LSU game.
Mm-hmm.
I had to see if Tua was going to have any issues. And you're right. He looked okay, but you could just tell something wasn't completely right. I don't think Andy Reid, I know that Shady's not playing today. Damian Williams is more than capable of carrying the load. I think that Andy knows that it's all about January, not the first week in November. So I think he probably comes out of the gate slow, probably run heavy, especially if they have the lead in this game early. He's been hobbling around on that ankle all year long, Donnie. I mean, one wrong hit, one bad move when he is eluding a defender, and he could be hobbling again. So, yeah, I would have to watch a little of this game before I decided to bet Kansas City. So I agree, definite live spot.
No, it's an interesting spot to look at. And by the way, kudos to anybody out there who can say, all right, Shady McCoy is down. Can you name the 3 active running backs on the roster for the Kansas City Chiefs? Darrell Williams, Damian Williams, and Darwin Thompson. Good luck keeping all those 3 straight, even if you're a seasoned NFL pro trying to go over games. My goodness. That's an interesting game. We started the topic off. Look, if you got Kansas City early week, fantastic. But at 6, I probably would back off, and it's one of those things where I just talked about, Jay. Maybe something you want to dip your toes into if you're watching that game live to see what it's all about. 253, 254, Buffalo and Cleveland. How about this? Jay and I were talking before coming in, or he's bringing up some interesting, statistics on this one. A 2-6 team, a 6-2 team. The 2-6 team is actually favored in this game. Now, here's one of the ones that we like to talk about. And there's another game on the board that we'll talk about a little bit later today in the show. Can you back Cleveland? You look at all the talent across the board. Last week, going against a kid that has never taken an NFL snap. This is the time we plant our flag in Denver, beat this team, and try to make a run and salvage our season. And you come up absolutely lame. And we sit in that same position this week, favored by less than a touchdown. You're at home. You have more talent. Jay, start us off with this one, man.
Yep. Second time in 31 years that a team with a 75% winning percentage is a dog to a team with a 25% winning percentage this late in the year. I can't back the Cleveland Browns, Donnie. They're not a good football team. Another season win total under I'm on. I think Buffalo, it has a really good defense. I know that they're like 15th. Football Outsiders has them. I don't know. I think that's light, man. I think they're at least a top 10 defense. And I think that Josh Allen has progressed. They're still bad. I mean, they're 26th in the league, I think, in offense. But, the kid, I think, is starting to turn the corner. If you're going to give me a field goal with a defense that's this good against an offense that has not been able to do anything the entire year. Another interesting stat, Baker Mayfield against zone coverage this year has been absolutely pitiful. And the most of the time, I think 6 out of every 9 defensive plays Buffalo runs is zone coverage. So my guess is that he's going to throw a couple picks today. And if you're going to give me a field goal, I'm taking it, even though they're on the road. I'm all over Buffalo today.
I can't hate it. Jay, I mean, I'm in agreement with you here because sometimes you watch teams over and over and over. You are what your record is. Sometimes you just don't wake up feeling dangerous, as we always joke around with Baker Mayfield. Yeah, a little bit. How about a little bit less dangerous here so you don't throw turnovers? And then you have Freddie Kitchens, who probably shouldn't be an NFL head coach, backing up. Ian, I'm going to come to you on this one. We take a look at Buffalo overall statistic-wise. Points in the NFL given up on defense, 3rd. Yards, 3rd. Passing, 3rd. Rush, 19th. So the reason I bring that up is if you're struggling a little bit with the pass and Odell Beckham's not on the same page or Jarvis Landry, you now have, Kareem Hunt coming back in this game, Nick Chubb, 2 really good, basically Pro Bowl level running backs coming back. But my question to you is, again, it just gets back to the functionality of Cleveland as an organization where they have to win this game in order to get you the ticket. Can they? I'm sure they can win this football game. They're at home. But the Bills, are coming in and going to put on a good performance, at least a competent performance. I don't have that with Cleveland, Ian.
Yeah, as someone that was flat out disgusted at backing Cleveland last week against Denver and seeing that performance, maybe I feel this way out of spite at this point, but in backing Buffalo today +3, but I'm backing Buffalo in this game. The defense, I think, is going to confound this Cleveland team. The one issue with the Bills, though, the last couple of weeks, it does concern me a little bit. The run defense has started to spring some leaks. I mean, you look at what the Eagles did, 218 yards on the ground. Old man Winter, Adrian Peterson for the Washington Redskins even gets to 100 rushing yards against the Bills last week. So all of a sudden that Buffalo run defense, which was really looking good for the majority of the first month and a half of the season, they've been run on a little bit the last couple of weeks. That's a concern with, as you mentioned, Donnie, Kareem Hunt back to support Nick Chubb. All of a sudden that could be a 1-2 running back tandem that could cause problems for the Buffalo run defense today. But I'm going to trust Sean McDermott to get that fixed. I mean, I don't know if you just go from being a good run defense and all of a sudden you have a couple bad games that you can't get it back on track. I think he can. Certainly when it comes to adjustments game to game and in game, I'll trust Sean McDermott over his adversary, Freddie Kitchens, any day of the week right now with this team. What I'm looking at here for Buffalo is an offense. I think that will work. I think their defense will play better. Baker Mayfield's been under pressure. The Buffalo offense, I think, can get going because they'll be able to run the football. That's been an issue for Cleveland. They've been run on this season. They've been absolutely hammered for 141 rushing yards allowed per game this season. So, and Jay's show, Live Line, a great show. He talks props all the time, player props. So I'm on Buffalo +3 in this game. I'm looking at Josh Allen, the quarterback, as a running quarterback, and as well Devin Singletary, who's healthy, who had a really good game last week on the ground running the football for the Buffalo Bills. He had a season-high 95 yards and a touchdown on 20 carries last week. I'm looking at Josh Allen and Devin Singletary of the Bills over rushing yards in this game. I think they do damage, and that's going to open up the passing game and make Josh Allen a more effective quarterback.
Now, we're talking about the passing game here, which obviously we want to talk about points. Looking across SBRodds.com now, how about this? Even if we're taking a look offshore, 42s now showing up at Pinnacle and Chris. In New Jersey, 42.5 showing up. So this over is actually creeping up. Jay, agree with that or not?
Not really, man. I think the Cleveland offense has been bad against average defenses. And I think this Buffalo defense is legitimate, even if they're middle of the league, supposedly. Somebody in the chat said Buffalo overall DVOA 25th. They're overrated. And in fairness, their wins have come against teams that are 9-41 on the year. That's fair. But I think that the Cleveland Browns are overrated in the marketplace based on the talent that they have on this team and not the results that have borne out. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So, no, I mean, I think, how do you back the Browns after what you saw last week? It's Buffalo or pass.
No, I would completely agree with you, because also when you take a look at point totals, what they have to get into, I understand that, because we're looking at Cleveland, and let's forget about or talk about this as well. Cleveland's defense as a whole. Do you know what they don't do real well in defense? Don't stop the run. 30th in the NFL. Yep. Not only do you have a really good, powerful running game, you have one of the best running quarterbacks in football that's going to be able to extend drives. Now, we always talk about, what do you want out of your defense if you have an athletic quarterback? I want 2 edge pass rushers that can keep the guy in the pocket. You had 2 top 20 defensive ends in Olivia Vernon and Myles Garrett, but you know what? You don't have Olivia Vernon today, so it's just Myles Garrett, which also means when you're scheming on the opposite side of the football to go against Myles Garrett, you can now chip him. You don't have to worry about hey, if we overload the right side, maybe the left side gets crashed in, or vice versa. That's going to be a big difference in this game. So it's interesting. I like the fact that it's going up to 42, because I do have some interest in one of these teams at least scoring some points in this one. So if we leave it now, I would lean Buffalo in this game, and I actually think we get over the 42 in this one. How about you two gentlemen on this one? I'll start with you, Jay.
I'm as far as what, the total?
Yeah, if I had to pick both sides, I would take Buffalo and the over in this one. I would assume, what are you on, Buffalo and the under?
Yeah, I would lean under, but I wouldn't bet the under. For me, I'm on Buffalo all the way.
Gotcha. How about you, Ian?
Yeah, the total in this range, I don't usually make a case for unders, low 40s or 30s. It's really, really tricky. I could see it going either way. I think it's a coin flip total. I could see it going over. I could see it staying under. I'm just going to stick with Buffalo in the side. I really like those player props, though. I like Allen rushing yards. I like Singletary rushing yards. Again, that's a 140 rushing yards per game Cleveland defense allowed right now, and that's going to be a problem, I think. And Singletary looked healthy. Looked as good as he has all season, returning from that injury last week's game. They can get that ground game going. Good player props to look at, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And as always, check out SBRodds.com for all the latest line movements here for us, and also Sportsbook Review for all the latest in NFL content. Let's keep it moving. One of the more interesting games that I was looking at this week, I have no wager either side in this one. I got to say, I was scratching my head a little bit. As we saw opening up offshore, -6s in that range towards Tampa Bay. We were dipping as low as some outlets going down to 4, but now we see a rebound on Sunday morning back to 5.5 for Tampa Bay. And it's like, welcome back, Cotter. I mean, when is the last time this team actually played a home game? Now we're saying, hey, man, we're built for the road. We're keeping games tough. We're, coming together as a team, staying in hotels. Now you come back to family, friends, and get back. And you play a team that's one of the, I don't want to say, a bottom level team, because they have performed well against bottom level teams, the Arizona Cardinals. And when they step up in competition, they get beat, but so do a lot of NFL teams. Now, looking at this football game, you saw last week in overtime, Tampa Bay gave Seattle all they could handle in Seattle. And maybe if they get the ball first in overtime, they might actually win that football game. But they do take the loss and come home. Over under. This is also an interesting one, because we're going to bring up obviously snap rates and how quickly Arizona gets, plays off, which is really what you want, more chances to score points. And Tampa Bay, we know, is explosive offense. How about this one, Ian? I'm going to start with you first. Opens 54, now at 51.
I disagree with the move down.
Yeah.
Seattle, Tampa Bay flew over the total last week. I had a little of that. I also had Tampa Bay, unfortunately, a brutal push for me when it was +6 on Tampa. They lose in overtime against Seattle last week. But Tampa Bay's an over team right now, because we know with Jameis Winston, he can make plays. I thought he played great last week outside of the one mistake he made, but he makes that mistake every game. And when he does make it, it's at least going to result in points for somebody, sometimes the other team. So you're going to get points either way out of what Jameis Winston does. Either move the ball. It is a big play offense. He's been able to find cohesion with Godwin and Mike Evans. They've been absolutely fantastic catching the football this season for the Bucs. I don't believe in Arizona's defense. Arizona's defense has only played somewhat respectable against bottom feeder offenses. I think Tampa Bay will move the ball. On the flip side, there's not much to like about the Tampa defense, particularly against the pass. They've been good against the run, but they're susceptible against the pass. I think that could harm them today in this game. Arizona has shown the ability to move the ball. I thought Arizona, even against San Francisco last Thursday night against a really good Niner defense, they weren't totally inept and done for offensively. They were able to move the ball in chunks. They got the big play to Donnie's guy, Andy Isabella, there out of UMass. Great touchdown catch for him last week against San Francisco. Another weapon they found, it looks like, for Kyler Murray. You got to give support to some of these others, especially Larry Fitzgerald, who's still playing well, but he's on his last legs from an NFL career. So I think you got both teams where the offenses are ahead of the defenses. Now that it's at 51 and an even better number, I'll pull the trigger over the total here.
Now, Jay, let's take a look at some interesting, factoids of this football game because it's dropping from 54 to 51. No major, weather implication this one. Take a look at Tampa Bay on defense, 31st overall in points. Arizona, 28th overall in points. Then we take a look at the Arizona offense, obviously only 19th in points, but they do run fast. And we take a look at Tampa Bay, 4th overall in the NFL in points. That's a big line drop. Anything you're seeing with the total that you like in this football game, or even with the side, if you agree or disagree with the line movement, where now Tampa Bay holding the upper hand, rising back to 5.5.
Yeah, I agree with the line. I think Tampa Bay, even though their record doesn't indicate it, I think they're a better football team than the Cardinals. I agree with Ian. I think both offenses are better than both of these defenses. And to be fair, as much as I've crapped all over Jameis Winston in the past, he is playing better this season. And you mentioned the snap rate, Donnie. Fastest snap rate in the league for the Cardinals. That's why I've been on them multiple times in the second half of these games this year, because they wear out these defenses and they normally put forth a better effort offensively in the second half of these games than they do the first. I agree. I don't understand. The only thing I could think of is, Joe Public looks at a 3-5 team and a 2-6 team and says, how are they going to get over 54? That's why this line's now down to 51, I think. But I think I'm willing to fade that market move. I think they go over 51. Normally, you and I talk about it all the time. Normally, two bad teams, everybody thinks the under. But, I think most of the time, those bad teams go over the number anyway.
And have a little bit of a boost there. Kenyon Drake, infused into the offense. David Johnson's going to be back too. I mean, two key components coming back into this ballgame, which would help you because, hey, look, we do see Tampa Bay as the number one overall rushing defense. Now, some of that can be, you could throw in the defense, so why would you run? So the yards are low. I hear all that, but I think you're going to get a pretty good look from Arizona on offense today. I don't really have a play either side in this one. I just thought it was really interesting because not often that we get a 3-point move on a total when it's not like hurricane conditions or, both starting quarterbacks or a starting quarterback at least being out in that football game. So an interesting one nonetheless. How about this one? Jay, your neck of the woods here, 257, 258, the New York Football Giants and the Jets. As you follow Ian, our good friend, Gabe Morency's in the parking lot saying, hey, everybody's raring and ready to go. And I sit back like, good for them football fans, man. Two teams that absolutely
I don't know why, Donnie. I don't know why.
Yeah,
This should be a loser has their season canceled game. That's what it should be.
No, you're absolutely right because you take a look at the New York Giants coming in. They are favored. Look, technically it is a Jets home game, but obviously they don't even move locker rooms. It's going to be in the same stadium. And arguably, you probably even have more Giant fans today than you do have Jet fans in the building. Over under across the board opened up at 43. 41 was the number of Chris. I don't know how long that lasted for, but actually seeing it come down. We saw it crest about 44 and a half. Now we're seeing game day 43 at Chris, 43 and a half at DraftKings. So that number coming down lower. I like the under in this football game. Just looking overall, you're down a couple weapons on the Giants. You want to use Saquon Barkley. If you want to use him, chances are it's going to use up a lot of clock. And the Jets, even though the Giants defense stinks, and Le'Veon Bell is going to play, and your weapons theoretically are better overall for the New York Jets, something is amiss with that offense. I just don't see a track meet in this football game. I like the under. Ian, let me start with you first in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be very brief. I have no interest in betting this game whatsoever. I can't lay points with the Giants. Did you see the Giants the other night against Dallas? A defense that couldn't get stops with the game on the line. Defense continues to be an issue for them. I will not lay points in the National Football League with bad defenses. And it's why I'm not on the Giants. It's actually why I'm not on Tampa Bay in the game we just talked about. Teams that I can't trust to get a stop when it matters, they're not going to be teams I lay points with. But do I want the Jets? Hell no. I saw Adam Gase last week, guys, quit on his team. And here's why he quit on his team. He had timeouts at his disposal, down 2 scores against Miami with 2 minutes to go. He didn't use any of them. He wasted time. He let the clock run down. That is a guy that tapped out. He quit on his team, turned his back on them, didn't call timeouts. I know it's unlikely you're going to come back and win that football game last week against Miami, but you've got to at least give it a chance to call your timeouts. You never know. Score a touchdown, get the onside kick. Crazier things have happened. But no, he gave up. He waved the white flag. When the coach is doing that on his team, how do you expect the players to lead and follow suit and not quit themselves? I think it is a toxic, brutal situation right now with the New York Jets. They're not a team I have any interest backing, so it's a pick your poison. Can't lay with the Giants, but there's no way I take the Jets. It's a pass.
Jay, these are your boys up here. So I just want to talk about one quick thing because I think Ian brings up a really good topic because it's when teams are playing hard for their head football coaches and teams are invested. Maybe they're not as talented, but they just don't step up. Even if you take it back to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, don't we all remember when the fumble's on the ground and Cam Newton's like, yo, bro, I'm good. Have at it, Denver. Like, we're probably going to lose this game. I'm not risking any injury. Last week, sort of a similar thing when they had that snap on the goal line that went by. Darnold looks back at the football. He's the closest one to it that can go get it. And he turns and looks at his line like, oh, what should I do? What should I do? Nobody gave a damn whether or not they recovered that fumble, even though it did go out of the back of the end zone. Jay, the Jets, can you bounce back, or are they circling the wagons in the locker room for this game? What do we expect here?
Listen, man, as somebody that bleeds Kelly Green, okay. Last weekend was one of the tipping points of the last decade. Like one of the really, really low lights of the last decade for the fans in this organization. I'll tell you right now, ESPN New York and the Fan, they hate Adam Gase. There are reports in the paper every day about players throwing the coach under the bus. Donnie, when me and you talked about this Thursday night on the live line, we looked at each other and said, how do these offenses score enough points to get over this total? That's exactly what we said. I don't know how they do. It was 44.5 when you and I were talking about it on Thursday. It's 43. I still think the game goes under. Ian's right. How do you back the Giants off what you saw last weekend against Dallas? It's hard to, but they're playing for Schumer at least, right? Or what Pat Shermer, right? That's his name?
Yeah.
The coach?
Either one.
They're not good, but there's been effort. There's been a pulse of effort. There's no doubt.
Yeah, right. They're playing. They're excited. They believe in Danny Dimes. They know the kid's a rookie, and he's going to need a year. One team is trying, and one team isn't. Now, the New York Giants have no weapons. They have Saquon Barkley. They have nothing else, right? So I couldn't bet a side in this game. I think even at 43, I'm willing to pull the trigger on the under here because I don't see – you got one kid that's seeing ghosts. You got another kid that has no weapons other than his running back. I don't see how the game goes over the total. So the only thing that I could see or tell anybody to pull the trigger on here is under 43. The Jets are in a sad state, man.
Yeah, I hope if you're looking from the under perspective, you want the Giants just to play a little bit, on the back end, like more conservative, so let guys get behind you. But when we're taking a look at the Giants, let's just talk about like red zone. Like both of these teams, red zone over the last 3 weeks, 27th in the NFL and 23rd in the NFL in touchdown rate in the red zone. Now you're down Evan Ingram, you're down wide receivers. Golden Tate's like 5'9". We posted him up in the end zone. I just see even if they do get in the red zone, both of these offenses to get bogged down. Field goals are your friend when you're betting the under. And that's where we're going to leave it here with the New York Giants and the Jets. Let's keep going here. Looks like maybe a blowout on the ticket here for this one. 259-260 down in the Voodoo City of New Orleans. Ryan back. Is he healthy is the question. Yeah, he got in some practice time, but hey, that's going to be a little bit different when you're playing an NFL football game on turf and in the dome. This is going to be a tough one. We saw the line open up 11.5, 12.5, 13. Now closer to 14 with juice, maybe some plus 101, plus 102s out there, but primarily a 2-touchdown line. This is a divisional game. At the beginning of the season, if you told me Slime was going to be 14, I'm laying the absolute wood on Atlanta because at least I think they would be a competent football team, which they are not. Obviously, getting rid of Mohamed Sanu. You still have some weapons at tight end and at wide receiver. The running game just seems to knock it off, but this one is really, to me, about the New Orleans Saints on offense, completely healthy. The offensive line is dominant. You have all your wide receivers back. You have your switchblade, a quarterback that subs in and out for Drew Brees. You also have both running backs now back in play for the New Orleans Saints. Is this a game where they match their number, Jay? Because we talked about this earlier. I'm going to start with you here. 31.5 to start the week, as high as 33 as a team total. Looks like Vegas, or it looks like the books are saying New Orleans might match their number and name their number in this football game. What do you think?
If I would consider going over 41 if that was their team total. Honestly, I mean, come on. The Falcons, everybody gets right against this team, right? Offensively. Now Kamara's back. They're fully healthy, the Saints. They're the second best team in the NFC, I think, after San Fran. I think I'm not looking to lay 2 touchdowns only because, as bad as this Atlanta team has been, Matt Ryan is still capable of putting up points, and it would not shock me to see the Falcons backdoor cover this game. When you're talking about 2 touchdowns in the NFL, a lot has to go right. But am I looking to bet, 51.5. Not really. I feel more comfortable taking the Saints team total over, 33? I feel better about that than going over for the full game. Pass on the side for me because I worry about the backdoor cover. And, I agree with you, Donnie. I like name your number here. I like Saints team total over.
Now, Ian, I want to talk to you about this because we see in Atlanta. And, I mean, look, they didn't fire their head coach, which it really wasn't going to make a difference whether or not they fired him over the bye week or if they fired him 2 weeks ago. The team is really limping at this point. New Orleans has eyes on another Super Bowl. They're healthy. And actually, if you're like betting this football game and you like New Orleans, it was actually nice that Drew Brees got in before the bye week, played well, got another 2 weeks to rest up, and now takes the field in this one. The one thing we're not used to, because when I take a look at a total, which is what I want to ask you on, opens up at 51.5. Usually, you could just paint by numbers in this game. As long as this game was under 55, as I said a couple times on shows during the week, you could just pencil that in. But New Orleans actually is playing some pretty good defense. If we're taking a look at a total, is this New Orleans going to set the pace and maybe we hope Atlanta can get to 21 points late in the game when it's a blowout? How are you approaching this one?
That's what I'm going to hope because I have over 51 in this game with Atlanta and New Orleans. Look, I think Atlanta's offense will do some things offensively. They'll be able to move the ball a bit. With Matt Ryan back. I think that'll spark them a little bit. It's also why I'm not laying the points with New Orleans here in this game, because Atlanta's a bad team. They're on a brutal run. Dan Quinn's out the door. We all know that. Team's going nowhere. Horrendous defense. And I'm sure that horrendous defense will be on display once again today against New Orleans with Drew Brees and all the weapons back now on offense for this team. They're full bore, including, as you mentioned, Donnie, of course, a guy that Sean Payton has called the Swiss Army knife of the football team, Taysom Hill. He can do it all. Quarterback, special teams, even use him, running the football at times. He can do it all for this team. This Atlanta defense, I don't see them getting many stops at all. I don't fault anyone liking the Saints team total over in this game. It's a high number, but it's high for a reason. They could get high 30s or even into the 40s quite possibly against this Atlanta Falcon defense, which is just abysmal. I mean, and don't be fooled by last week. I actually think, guys, we've got a reduction in this total for the game at 51 based on the last game before the bye for Atlanta where they faced Seattle. Oh, Seattle only scored 27 points. Well, hold on now. All those points were in the first half. Seattle took it easy on Atlanta in the second half. They took their foot off the gas pedal. They had a little mercy and compassion for the Falcons, saying, we've beaten this dead horse already after the first half. We don't need to pummel them anymore into submission. Seattle was just running the ball, getting the clock moving, just trying to get that game over with. So don't be fooled by that 27 points that Seattle scored against Atlanta. If that game is even remotely close, Seattle could have gone and scored 30 or 40 in that game against this Atlanta defense. I like the over in this game, and I don't look toward the Saints team total either.
Awesome stuff, man. Jay, I just want to get a quick look at you again, because I know we have a couple shows for you a little bit later today with the live line. You're going to do the 1 o'clock edition, then you're going to come back for some primetime action. I like to circle back on these type of games, because what are we going to see from Matt Ryan? Is this something that you say, you know what, it's 14 points. What happens if we kick off and Atlanta gets the ball first and Matt Ryan's cooking out there? I mean, he looks good. He's flipping it off. Is that something that might pique your interest in this one? You say, you know what, I think I might get more value before the game in this one. You're
talking about if you were going to,
let's just say a total.
I would love to see Atlanta come out and score the first touchdown, because I would take the Saints at the reduced number in a second. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I don't know, man. The Saints are such a balanced football team. They are one of only 2 teams that are in the top 10 in DVOA, both offensively and defensively, them in Minnesota, I think. So, yeah, Donnie, I'm hoping if anybody that wants to get on the Saints, you hope Atlanta wins the toss, they take the ball, and they go right down the field and score a touchdown. Because if that happens, that 14 is going to be 9.5, and then I'm all over the Saints at anything under 10.
I want to point out one last thing, too, about Atlanta. They're bad. They've lost 6 in a row. I think there's a chance. Maybe they've quit. Maybe they've packed it in already. But there's a chance if there's one game they get up for, like their Super Bowl for the season, it's in New Orleans against the Saints, division rival. They'd want to get up for this game. The question is, will they? We'll see. But again, divisional dogs. We've talked. That's been talked about a lot. 5-1 against the spread this year. Divisional underdogs in terms of divisional dogs of plus 10 or more. 5-1 against the spread this year. So again, that's one of many reasons why I'm not rushing just to lay the points here with New Orleans, even though it screams potential mismatch.
Yeah, Michael Thomas and also Traquan Smith now back in the lineup, just getting more and more weapons. And sometimes you got to look at some of the injury reports that come out. Desmond Trufant, if he would have suited up today, that would have been a major help for that secondary. He's also down for the Atlanta Falcons. So good luck. And again, I still agree with it. I mean, 31.5, I was like, ooh, that might be a little bit high to start the week because everything has to go right. Now you're seeing that line's at 32.5, 33 is his team totals. I think they do end up getting there. Let's keep moving forward today. 261, 262, 1 o'clock game, Baltimore and Cincinnati, Jackson and Finley. Yes. Finley will be the starting quarterback here today. Ryan Finley for the Cincinnati Bengals. What were the Bengals hoping here? Coming, we're going to take the bye. Let's evaluate a young quarterback. We'll get A.J. Green back. We're going to look like a formidable offense. Well, A.J. Green is down, so now you're just left with your rookie quarterback. And a lot of people say, well, hey, they played him really close. They had that backdoor cover for Cincinnati before when they played Baltimore early in the season. Can the rookie, without a good wide receiver, get that backdoor cover today? And I know Lamar Jackson was, illness and missed a little bit. They're healthy coming into this football game. This is the classic letdown spot. But I always like to say, look, if you have a high-powered offense through the air, letdown spots are a little bit more manageable. Can you let down if you have a great running game? How do you let down a great running game? I just think Baltimore is going to be able to name their pick in this for what points they want in this game, and that's going to factor in a little bit later to our best bets in the show. Look, hey, good luck. If you're contrarian out here, Cincinnati, you want to take them. It's a division game. They're going to play them tough. Good luck to you. I'm not stepping in front of Baltimore. Ian, we'll start with you first in this one.
Yeah, I could only take given the spot Cincinnati, but I'm not rushing to do it at all because, again, we're talking about the one thing that Baltimore really wants to do offensively, and that's run the football with all the weapons that can run it against the league's worst run defense, that being the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of rushing yards per game. This is one game where, again, I don't want to lay 10.5 coming off the New England game. It's just that it's a dubious enough spot. And the weird little series history with the Ravens and Bengals guys is that Cincinnati's always played Baltimore tough. I can't explain why. Remember, Cincinnati knocked Baltimore out of the playoffs 2 years ago, Week 17, allowed the Buffalo Bills to get in. Instead, it's just a weird series history where even though the Bengals have had some bad teams and the Ravens good teams, Cincinnati's come to play against Baltimore and given them fits. So maybe they do today. The spot certainly indicates they could, but I don't know if I've got the guts to bet it for anything small, if at all. What I'm looking at is, again, player props. It's something that if you watch Live Line with Jay, he talks about props all the time, but breaking down the football games. I'm loading up on Lamar Jackson. I'm loading up on Mark Ingram. I'm loading up on Gus the Polar Bear Edwards here. These three guys running the football for the Baltimore Ravens over their rush attempts, over their rush yards in this game. They should feast on this pathetic, brutal Cincinnati run defense. That's what they're going to aim to do. Lamar will run it. Mark Ingram will run it. Gus Edwards will run it. And I think they'll run it successfully. I'm all over player props for those three players.
Jay, Cincinnati's defense here. Let's talk to me about it. Yards, 32nd in the NFL. Let's keep in mind, there are 32 teams in the NFL. Against the rush, 32nd. And then we flip over to Baltimore. How about first in points? How about first in rushing? This is a match made in heaven for Baltimore here. What are you looking at?
Donnie, I think had Andy Dalton played and had they been fully healthy, I'd live for these spots. I would have taken that 10.5 in a second, but I can't do it. I've never seen this kid play in a pro football game, and they're injured. I can only look to the under here. I think Ian nailed it with the rushing props for the Baltimore Ravens. I will probably bet a couple of them live because I have live player props. I don't see how the Cincinnati Bengals score consistently in this game. And I think that Baltimore is going to be so run heavy today, even more so than normal, because of how bad the Cincinnati defense is against the run, that I think it's going to chew time off the clock. And this could be a 31-7 final where they get under the number and Baltimore goes over their team total at the same time. So pass on the side, even though the spot dictates Cincinnati, but you can't do it with the wild cards over there. But give me the under here. Give me under, what is it, 44 and a hook?
Yeah, dropping to open up 46 and a half now, 44 and a half. Chris offshore now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't normally bet the worst of the number, but I do think that there are certain extenuating circumstances. And I think how bad Cincinnati is against the run is one of them. So I don't think they're going to score. And I think that Baltimore should have long, sustained 8-minute drives in this game.
No, it should look. I don't know who's watching this game outside if you're like a Baltimore Ravens fan. I can't imagine Cincinnati selling the joint out. Probably a lot of Ravens fans just getting some cheap tickets, and who the heck's actually going to show up in this football game? I think Lamar Jackson will be fine in this game. I'm downplaying the illness a little bit. I don't think he's going to be under the weather. He's a running quarterback. They should be able to do whatever they want on the ground, and I'm not so sure about saying, hey, I'm going to lay the wood on a kid that hasn't taken too many snaps here in the NFL, so I'll stick with – I think Baltimore is going to win by 2 touchdowns in this game. I honestly do. 265, 266, the last 1 o'clock game we're going to talk about. A lot of intrigue in this one. Matthew Stafford. Hey, doesn't matter how bad he's banged up. Doesn't matter how bad his back is over the past couple of years. Arm problems, knee problems, broken hand problems. Doesn't matter. He always suits up. Not going to suit up today. So this kid is injured. Multiple fractures in his back. Was going to try to give it a go. Not a great look in a cooler temperature day against a pretty hard-hitting defense in the Bears. So what do we see? The 2.5s disappear, go as high as 7. If we're taking a look at SBRodds.com right now, 6.5 primarily the number across the board. Some -7s plus 100 if you're looking at direction. But again, I beat the drum all week long. I still like the Chicago Bears -2.5 all week long. I don't know if I can dip in and say, hey, well, it's now 7 points and take Mitchell Trubisky in that. I thought they would win this game. The Bears are going to win this game, and I think their offense is going to surprise some people with how poor that Detroit Lions defense is. And when you talk about betting a football game, you talk about getting bumps in your lineup, right? Patrick Mahomes coming back. Oh, yeah, let's get out here, guys. Let's have a good game. Think of the word in the locker room. Hey, man, our Iron Man is not playing tomorrow. That's a deflator right away. Ian, I'm going to start with you first. Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. What are you, muted, Ian? Get off that mute button.
Yeah, if you had Chicago laying less than a field goal, you had a decent number, decent spot for sure. Now at the current number, I'm mildly interested in this underdog actually now, 6.5, 7 for something small, a pizza money type bet. But I'm looking at Detroit a little bit here. Jeff Driscoll obviously will be the quarterback. And I know he's had limited starting action. We don't know how well he's going to do. He's got to go now on the road against still a pretty good Chicago defense. But the one thing I like about him is that he's a mobile, athletic, dual-threat quarterback, and you need to be when you're going up against a Chicago defensive front that can flat-out get after it. I think that will at least give him a punching chance, a fighter's chance, and maybe be able to find, they still have good receivers, the Lions. Say what you will about their defense, which isn't much, and it's a concern going into this game about Golladay and Marvin Jones, very good receivers, Driscoll, an athletic quarterback. Can they do some things? It's funny. My boy Alex B. Smith, who lives in Minnesota now, but from Chicago, Bears fan, he said yesterday watching Penn State, Minnesota, it's like James Franklin used Matt Nagy's playbook for this game here on offense. And yeah, what has happened with Matt Nagy's playbook? This is like Dumb and Dumber here from a coaching standpoint this year. You've got a guy brought in for defense, Matt Patricia, now coaching a team that can't play defense, and you got a offensive coach in Matt Nagy for a team that can't play offense and can't score points. So what the hell's going to give here in this game? Detroit's defense or Chicago's struggling offense? One of these two are going to have to show up and be the dominant unit. Who do you trust more, Detroit's bad defense or Chicago's bad offense? That's the big question here in this game. But at the current number, I'm going to have a small bet here on Detroit. I'm going to dare Mitch Trubisky, and I'm going to dare this stagnant Chicago offense to prove to me they can win by a touchdown or more, something they haven't been able to do in quite some time.
Jay, looking at this game here, just coming up, checking out Twitter here, and the news on Stafford. He actually had the back injury late last week near the end of the Oakland game, which is always the toughest ones to judge because obviously he gets hurt in the third quarter. You're probably going to see it, and you can factor that into capping throughout the rest of the week. Usually when we see a guy like Stafford flare up and hey, his back's bothered, dude, he's tough as nails. He's going to be back in there, but a serious injury nonetheless. New quarterback coming in, but does have some NFL experience. Now looking at a new line. Let's just say you get a touchdown. Is that something you'd be worth to dip your toes in and take the Detroit Lions? You say, you know what? I'm out on this game.
Donnie, your relationship with the Bears is like an alcoholic in AA.
We're going to drink today.
You should not be anywhere near the fucking Bears, but you can't help yourself.
I can't. I love the Bears, man.
I can only look towards the under here. I know it's gone down a lot, but I think it's warranted, obviously, because of Driscoll. I can't lay any points with the Bears, not even one against anybody. It doesn't matter. Not with Trubisky. But I do think that they're in a spot where they're going to run the ball a lot. I think David Montgomery props could be in effect here, depending on what the total is. And I'm not going to take I was going to take the 3 if Stafford was playing, but he's not playing. And even though it's 7 now, I'm not going to do it, and I'm certainly not going to lay it. So I can only look towards the total here, and I think it's going to go under.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least, because you're putting, and again, when I look at Chicago's healthy. I mean, obviously they're down a defensive tackle, but their offense is completely healthy for this football game. If you cannot move, when we take a look at Detroit's defense, 27th in points, 31st in yards, 30th against the pass, and 27th against the rush. This is one of those where you say the front office, hey, Mitch, man, you can't hang 24 on this Detroit Lions team. We can't win this football game against this defense with their all-world quarterback out. Sometimes you got to pack your bags and keep it moving at this point. So a lowly game to look at, but an interesting one nonetheless. I don't want to say it's going to save Chicago's season because, hey, look, I don't think they're going anywhere near the playoffs at this point. But you have to win this game against the Detroit Lions. We'll see what takes place.
Casey Koenig, Donnie, has an interesting look. Maybe Detroit team total under 16. I don't hate that.
No, it's not, but it's interesting because now you get a more athletic quarterback and you still have weapons. Like, you still have an unbelievable receiving core. But I guess I would tend, if you get like a 17 or less, that probably would make a little bit more sense, because then you're looking at 20 points or more in order to cash that ticket on that one.
Yeah.
Tough one there. 4 o'clock. We got 4 o'clocks to talk about. Got about 15 minutes left. In about 10 minutes, we're going to go over best bets here on the show. Miami and Indianapolis pop the bottles in reverse. Remember, the Miami Dolphins always like to, hey, last team that loses, that's undefeated, the 72 team gets together. Well, now they can pop their own bottles that their actual team is not going to do the reverse at 0-16. Probably partied it up on South Beach, ate a Joe Snow crab, maybe went to LIV or whoever you were hanging out down in Miami. Now you go on the road and you play the Colts, who should have won last week against the Steelers, missing the field goal late in the football game. Even down to your third string quarterbacks almost look like the better football team in this overall game. Looking at this as a head, I think Indianapolis, even down wide receivers, even down quarterbacks, I think they just run right over Miami's defense. I don't see much resistance. You're down your best running back. You're down your best, or I should say your most productive running back and your most productive wide receiver in the Dolphins. Ian, what gives here? I just say, hey, it's too many points. Indianapolis doesn't beat anybody by this much. But the Dolphins come in with not much NFL talent on their team.
Yeah, this is another one. It's not a best bet, but I laid the points with Indy here in this game. Bounce back spot off a tough loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was on Indy last week. Heartbreaking seeing a flutter ball by Adam Vinatieri at the end of that football game. But I like this team in bounce back mode. They've been great at home. They've been tremendous at Lucas Oil Stadium all season long. I think they'll be good there again. Look, Miami got the big win last week against the Jets. The Jets lost that game every bit as much, if not more, than Miami won that game, if you watched it. Sorry to say that, Jay. But nevertheless, we've got Miami here in this game. They got the win, okay? Whew. Exhale time. Mm-hmm. This is where I think they hit the wall. They're a little flat. They got the win. They're not going to be this 0-16 disgrace that lives in the annals of NFL history. They got the win under their belt. It's still a team that's thinking first overall pick. It's still Ryan Fitzpatrick here against a team that's still capable in the secondary of picking off passes that he throws into coverage. And even with Brian Hoyer at quarterback instead of Jacoby Brissett, I thought Hoyer was okay last week against Pittsburgh. Moved the ball at times. A veteran guy. He's going to be more comfortable at home. Week of practice under his belt against a defense that most teams are going to be able to move the ball and score points against. Yeah, this number's come to remember. This opened 16 with Miami as an underdog. It's down to 11 in most spots. I think the value now is slid to the Colts as home chalk, and I'm going to lay it.
I actually agree with you, Jay. I'm going to talk to you about that point that Ian just brought up. Perfect segue here. So are we saying we were better off with Jacoby Brissett on one leg or a healthy Brian Hoyer? I think you're actually not really getting that much of a discount down from quarterbacks, and actually maybe a more productive quarterback that can move around in the pocket, maybe do some things. Looking at this, is it just too many points fundamentally? Because if you're just looking at the season as a whole, when Indianapolis does win, it's not really in blowout fashion, and you're probably going to have to win this game by 2 touchdowns.
I'll tell you, and I've bet Miami with the points more than a few times this year, and they're 500 against the spread this year. But I think Ian nailed it, man. They exhale, they got the win, and it sets up for a monumental letdown spot. Initially, when I looked at this, I was like, man, 10.5 with Hoyer, huh? But Donnie, this is how I look at the game. The Washington Redskins were a 3-point favorite in Miami. Okay, now at home, that means they're a 9-point favorite, right? So you're telling me that the Indianapolis Colts, you're only laying a point more than what Washington would have laid at home earlier in the year? That seems wrong to me.
I got to
That
jump in,
seems
Jay, just
like
1 second.
even though
Well, I just want to jump in with one more for you. Buffalo was laying 17 at home to Miami a few weeks ago. Buffalo. And now Indy's only going to lay 11. I think from a value standpoint, something doesn't look right here.
Points.
Yeah, I agree. Initially, you think to yourself, I don't know, man, back a third-string quarterback and the 10. I think a lot of people are going to take Miami today. But I think the both of you are right. If you look at what other teams around this league have laid against this team, this is not asking too much from with Jacoby Brissett. What are the Colts? The fourth best team in the AFC? Maybe fifth? I like it. I'm laying it here.
No, and you also take a look at attrition, too. They had Kenyon Drake. They had Mark Walton. They had their wide receivers intact. They had their best cornerback intact over the past couple weeks, and still with those numbers. They're down all those guys. And you know the front office probably give a little bit of high five, go, whew, pressure's off now. Now we got to make a look if we can take who this top quarterback's going to be. And wins don't help at this point. Fitzpatrick is going to keep you somewhat engaged in this football game, but he's not going to be able to go on the road and win it. That big, nasty offensive line for Indianapolis should keep that pocket clean. They should be able to run the football. I think they get the win and cover in this one. Real quick on this one before we jump out. Any thoughts on the total? Because now we're looking at 43.5. Jay, I'll start with you first.
It's a pass for me. I think that's basically exactly where it should be. I don't really see an edge either way.
Ian, how about you on the total in this one?
I think it barely slides under, but not enough to bet it.
I hear you there. 263 is 264. Boy, you didn't like what you saw about Green Bay last week. So, obviously as us cappers who say, hey, bounce back effort should be a good one. Let's see what takes place. Carolina coming in fresh off a victory versus Tennessee. And this line in Lambeau, where it's extremely hard to beat those Green Bay Packers, opens at 6. And I'm saying to myself, I even got asked by Jimmy early in the week, is that 5.5? So it's more likely to be at 6 than it is at 5. Well, how about this? It's 4.5 now. If you're looking from a Green Bay perspective, no better time to jump in. My question is, why is that line dropping down for the Green Bay Packers? Did we just say that's more of the malaise that we saw last week? They're at home. They're tough to beat. Aaron Rodgers is healthy. This team's getting healthier by the week. Am I missing something in this game, Ian?
You know what I think people are reacting to? What the Chargers did Thursday night. And, of course, the Chargers blasted Green Bay last Sunday at home. People are saying, okay, Green Bay lost to this Chargers team that went back to reverted to the same old can't get it done and can't win a close game Chargers on Thursday Night Football against Oakland. I think there's some reaction in the betting market to that, some sentiment based on what we saw Thursday night. It's a bounce back spot for Green. I'm not getting in front of Green Bay in this spot. Aaron Rodgers said it after the loss to the Chargers. We were flat. We were not ready. We ate a piece of humble pie. I think we started to think we were too good. We were a little overconfident. We were on a great run, and we got humbled a little bit. So I would expect him to play better. I think they'll move the ball against Carolina. Carolina short-handed in the secondary. Carolina not trusting this defense. Tennessee moved the ball against them last week. San Francisco shredded Carolina's defense 2 weeks ago. I think Carolina is going to give up some big plays here to Aaron Rodgers and company, but I think Carolina will be able to run the football with Christian McCaffrey. It's a simple handicap for Carolina. If Christian McCaffrey can get loose and be productive, Carolina's live in any game they play, and Kyle Allen is more effective with Christian McCaffrey going off. I think he goes off today. This has not been a good Green Bay run defense in recent weeks. They were an overrated defense. People were going on and on. This Packers, much better defense. Well, they've been shredded against the run. They were beaten badly against the run last week against the Chargers. I think McCaffrey can have a big day, and when he has a big day, Carolina's capable of scoring points. This is another game. I think we see points. It's going to be cold at Lambeau. I get it. But 48, I think it gets over that total. I like the over there.
How about this one, Jay? We take a look. Kyle Allen, say what you want about the kid, game manager, young quarterback, whatever he's winning. And Ian brings up a good point. If Run CMC gets off, they're a really hard team to beat. But then again, you're coming back to Green Bay. You think maybe that whip gets cracked in the locker room saying, you young cats, man, really disappointed us last week on the West Coast. That ain't going to happen at home. Let's get out and get a good victory. What are we looking at? Some key points in this game here, Jay?
Donnie, I put the Packers in the same department as I put the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think they're as good as their record, as what their record says. Listen, man, the Packers off a loss in Lambeau. It's really hard to go against that. I can't bet it though. I'm not going to bet Carolina either. But I don't know why, man. I just don't believe in this Green Bay Packer team yet. They're sixth in offense, right? 20th in defense. But I will say this about the Carolina Panthers. Ian was talking about that defense. Through the first 7 weeks, up until they got shredded by the San Francisco 49ers, they were third in the league in defense. Correct. So would it shock me to see them give Aaron Rodgers a hard time, even though they're in Lambeau today? No, it wouldn't. I actually lean. Well, I wouldn't do it now because it's down to 4.5. But at 6, I lean towards taking. Carolina. But now I can't do it. As far as the total, again, I think that number is right around where it should be. I think it's a 27-23 type game either way, no matter who wins. And at 48.5, I don't think there's enough value to go over.
Yeah, I would, with this point spread, dropping 6, maybe, you could stay inside that number, and it's windy and cold. 4.5, I'm probably leaning more towards Green Bay, but I don't have a play on either the side or the total in this game. We got one more game to go over, 425 today. 8:20 game is tonight, Minnesota and Dallas. Jay and the Live Line crew are going to be able to handle that one a little bit later. So let's spend, 2 minutes here before we get our best bets out. 269 at 270, the Rams and Pittsburgh. And look, I picked 6 contests and on the Audible, I went with the Los Angeles Rams -3.5. Now we get 4 across the board. I like the spot that the Rams are showing up at. And sometimes you have to watch how teams perform. Last week, I got to tell you right now, I won with the Steelers last week versus the Colts, and I should not have done that. The Colts were the better football team last week. Now you're going to get a rested, ready, rejuvenated Rams team coming into town. I don't think Mason Rudolph can throw us to victory here. Ian, how about this game here?
Really, really fascinating game. I think there's a lot of ways you could look at this particular game. But first of all, the one thing that stands out here, with this LA Rams team, certainly from a spot perspective, really sets up well. They had the game in London against Cincinnati, bye week for a coach we trust with extra time to prepare, and Sean McVay to get his team ready to go. And I'm all for it. That's right there. End of discussion. I'm not making a case against the Rams just based on that. Sean McVay off a bye, time to prepare. I trust him in that role. That being said, here we go again with Jared Goff on the road against a capable enough defense. And Pittsburgh has played some decent defense in the last few weeks. We know he can be mistake prone at times on the road against a quality defense. I'm worried that bothers me still. And remember, he's had some really ugly games at times, particularly away from home. Earlier this season, didn't play well on Sunday night at Cleveland. San Francisco shut him down completely. There are some ugly games for Jared Goff at times this year. That's my one reservation, and the fact this number is now 4.5. But if I were to bet it, I'd lean a little bit to the Rams, but I didn't get involved.
Jay, real quick on this one.
Is James Conner playing?
He is not. He is out today.
That's big. Yeah.
And Juju is, I think, going to be
Juju is going to play in this football game, but banged up late in the week never helps. But you do want to keep an eye on that the final inactive report. Go ahead, Jay. What do you got on this one?
I like the Rams. I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of my favorite looks. Even at 4, I don't have a problem with it. Listen, the Steelers defense is good. They're like top 6 in the league, I think. Their offense is not good, man. And Mike Tomlin, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they don't believe in the kid, but they have not taken the training wheels off Mason Rudolph. And he has not had, except for the Miami game, out of the last 5 games, he hasn't really had to go out there and really grab a game by its throat and take it over. He did against Miami when they were down 14-0. But Donnie, they've won their last 3 games. They could easily be 1-2 their last 3 games with the Colts game and the Chargers game. I think McVay off a bye. I think Ian said it right, and I think what you said was dead on the money too. They're rested. You should get a rejuvenated at least 1/2 from Todd Gurley. And now, but is Brandon Cooks playing? He's out.
He's
right?
out. Yep.
I still think, yes. Do I like their offense better when Cooks is in? Yeah, because I think that it spreads the field a little more. But Cooper Kupp's the most important wide receiver on the team, and Robert Woods is capable. I think that the Rams go in there and they stick the Steelers' dick in the dirt, bro. I think it's gonna be a big one.
I agree. Close to game time here. Let's get these best bets out and fired. I put it in the chat box. My closing lines play of the day have been really working out well. I'm going to go another 2-pack today. Indianapolis, which I had at -10.5. But hey, I'm a man of the people. The line says 11. We're now going to go -11. I'm going to go the Baltimore team total over 26.5 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Ian, real quick from you, best bets.
Yeah, it's going to be over Palooza. 1, 2, 3, 4 overs 3 at 1, 1 at 4 o'clock. Kansas City, Tennessee over 49. Atlanta, New Orleans over 51. Arizona, Tampa Bay over 51. Carolina, Green Bay over 48.
Ian, if you can please write that in the chat as well, that would help us out. Also, Jay, please, your best bets today on the closing line.
Did you give out the Rams, Donnie?
No, I did not. Nope, I have my Indy and I have
All
Baltimore.
Right, give me the Rams, and we didn't talk about it, but Monday night, I think the 49ers show up, show out, and expose Seattle. I think they roll, and I think they roll big. It's a statement game. Give me what is it? San Fran -6.
There we go. Closing lines. We're ready to go. Another week in the books. It's 1 o'clock. It's time for kickoff. We'll let you guys get back to the games. Thanks again for joining us. We'll do it once again next Sunday on sportsbookreview.com's The Closing Line. For Ian, for Jay, thanks for tuning in. Catch us next week. And as always, man, good luck on your wagers out there.
Good luck, everybody.
Later, guys.